Yeah, welcome to everyone. We're just having a bit of a Christmas special tonight. Usually, we run quite a lot of seminars and they're educational, either about the sport or about online platforms, etc. I just thought it'd be really nice tonight to offer a Christmas special when we're all bored of watching the same thing and eating the same brown food, just to get together and have a chat, really. We've invited a few guests. If you can see from the screen, I'll just repeat again, but we've obviously, unfortunately, had a dropout tonight from Jake Davoile, who's come down ill. And Jamie from Manchester, who's a very successful fishery owner who's doing some fantastic things for kids. Unfortunately, his car's broken down. And the lesson to be learned from that is don't be a fishery owner, because you'll get a decent car if you get a real job. So that'll be one of those. But we are blessed to have with us tonight Tom Humphreys, formerly of the Angling Trust, but now working with Dynamite Baits. And in reference to his Tackleshop project, which is aimed at supporting independent tackle shops, which is really important.
Yeah. Brilliant.
For which Tom won the Angling Times Recognition Award, Special Recognition Award in the Angling Times Awards. And we've got Mr. Adam Penning from Penning's Carp Academy and a lot of other angling fame, obviously, who's just won the subscription platform of the year in the Angling Times. So we're blessed with some very good guests this evening. It's really nice to see you both. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
So what we'd like to do tonight, very laid back, guys, so feel free to chit chat, ask questions. What we're going to do is we're going to let Adam and Tom just tell us a little bit about what they've been up to. Tom's requested to go second, Adam, so you're first. I'm going to push you out in front first. So we'll let Adam and Tom tell us a little bit about what they've been up to, about what, the awards and what they're planning to do in the future, in the next year. If you've got any questions, you can use the raise hand function, which is at the bottom of your screen, 2 buttons in from the big red end, the call button. We've got a hand. So if you can just raise your hand, we'll then come to you instead of everyone kind of shouting about. So we'll give the guys a chance to speak, maybe for 10 minutes or so each. Feel free to ask questions, and then we're just going to open it up to a general Q&A, really, and just have a chit chat for as long as anyone wants to stay on. So Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy New Year for tomorrow. And Adam, over to you, really, if you want to tell us a little bit about Carp Academy for the audience that haven't heard about it, and tell us what where the idea came from, where it's going, and what you put the success down to.
Okay. Well, it was originally an idea that was came out of discussion between myself and Rob and Joe, who own Carpology, both good mates of mine, and I'd done some videos with them. And they said, why don't we try and... So we built this sort of concept for a educational, informational platform together. And it was regretful, really, because it coincided with the time that they got approached by Kelsey Publishing, who wanted to buy them out. So when Kelsey bought them out, they then said, look, we're not interested in the video part of the business. We're just interested in print media. So suddenly, very early on, I found myself floundering on my own, because Joe and Rob are vastly more experienced and skilled in all kind of things media that I'm not. And a shame, because we're all good mates and continue to be, and it would have been nice to carry on working with them. But so that was in the early days, and then since then, I've just done it completely on my own, and made a few mistakes here and there, I suppose, but just generally tried to persevere with a commitment to making content that is first and foremost aimed at helping people catch more carp, basically. So it sounds quite simplistic, but the thing is, I was totally aware that obviously the other platforms, all run by mates of mine, all do outstanding content based on principally on entertainment. The sort of thing, if you get in your favorite chair on a Sunday night with a glass of red and you want to watch a beautifully made film that's almost Oscar worthy, with great big black mirror carp and steaming kettles and misty lakes and atmosphere and so on, then I was never going to try and compete with that, because the guys that do that, as I said, are my mates. They do it so well, and it wouldn't be fair either. I'm going to cut across their bows. So I thought, well, we'll do something that's completely different to what everybody else is doing, and just try and make it principally, first, second, and third, education and information based, and not entertainment based. So that's what we set out to do with completely independent and with just a straight talking approach. Just, you know, there's a lot of gimmicks out there, there's a lot of BS, and there's a lot of overselling. I thought, well, if we have no adverts, we don't plug stuff, our guests are allowed to if they want to, whoever they're with, but you know, I just wanted something that was honest and unbiased and kind of was built on integrity and honesty, I suppose, and that, I think that's probably struck a chord with people in a world where they're overexposed to advertising and selling, and I think people are a bit wary of it now. So yeah, that's the kind of philosophy. I certainly didn't I went out the door on the day or a couple of days before when I heard about the Angling Times awards, and I said to my wife as I was going out, I mentioned that there were these awards, and you know, we wouldn't figure in them, but it was nice to be nominated. And about 2 hours later, when I got to where I was going, which was a lake actually, James Furniss from the Angling Times rang me up and said, "You've won it." And it actually is, it sounds weird, but it was one of the biggest shocks I can remember ever having. Yeah, it's really almost a bit emotional, really. So yeah, massive thanks to all the guys that voted. I mean, I didn't canvass for it, I didn't do anything. So when it happened, it was astonishing. So yeah, just hoping to use maybe a bit of that momentum to get us to a point where where I can hopefully get it big enough that it's not just me, because there is a lot to do for one person, and I don't do a lot of the media very well. I mean, I wish I knew half of what Rob knows in this sort of area, but I'm very Jurassic, really. I just sort of clump around, not really knowing what I'm doing. But when it comes to the fishing side of it, I can do that reasonably. But I want to grow it to the point. I heard you're okay anyway. We have. I want to get an app is the main thing. Obviously, that's ridiculously expensive and well beyond our budget at the moment. Ultimately, I want to grow it to the point that, you know, if someone said, "Have you got a business plan?" I haven't got a business plan, but if we ever got Carp Academy big enough, then I would think, right, well, how about Trout Academy? How about Sea Academy? And ultimately, how about Bass Academy in the States? Because then that would be serious. So whether we would ever get big enough to be anything other than Carp Academy and you know, and encompass barbel.
Has Adam just gone on mute? Is it just me?
I can't hear him.
Adam, I think you've muted yourself. Adam,
you're on mute, mate.
Someone message Adam.
I'll do it.
Oh, I've got him.
He's Rob, as thingy.
There's probably some deadly secrets here that we're missing out on.
Rob, as owner of the meeting, can you not unmute him? Oh, there he is.
Oh no, there he is. Are you back, Adam?
He
still
is, but can't hear him.
Still can't hear you. I think the mic's given up, Adam. I don't know what mic's going on situation. See if I can do anything with him. Just unmute yourself. There you go. Right. I think he's having a look around his settings by the looks of it. He's got that head down looking at his settings. Look to him.
No.
Maybe try and leave the call and come back, Adam. See if you can join on the same link again. I don't know about you, but I was quite interested there. I was getting a bit lost in that one.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really interested to hear how it actually works and started from a technology perspective, to be honest.
in terms of building a streaming platform kind of thing? Because it's quite
whether it's like a off the shelf package or bespoke, and I bet it's a ton of work to get it all up there.
So Adam's back. His microphone's on mute again. So if you unmute yourself, Adam, let's see if we can hear you.
Right, is that
Yeah, you've got you. Yes, we're back.
Hey, he's back.
All right. I don't. The most frustrating thing, when you're on a mobile phone call and you carry on talking for 5 minutes, which I wouldn't normally do, and then you realise the call actually ended, and you cut off and you carry on talking. Did you hear any of that or none of it?
Where did we actually? What point did we finish up there? Obviously, we're talking about diversifying beyond Carp Academy, and then.
Oh, that's all right. You heard most.
It was about Bass.
Bass
Academy.
Academy.
Point.
Yeah, we got to Bass Academy.
Yeah, so I got up to there and I haven't touched any buttons. Honestly, I'm just surrounded by some sort of glitch energy that is capable of. I can seize padlocks by touching them. It's really weird. Yeah.
Remember, guys, this is the guy that's just won subscription platform of the year.
I told you, I'm very techie. I'm terrible. I don't know why any of that would have stopped working. Sorry about that.
But, yeah, no, carry on, Adam, because everyone's quite interested. I know Tom's already got a question for you, so we'll carry on with what you were saying about moving forward, and we'll go from there.
Well, that was pretty much rounded off at that point. It was, if I could grow it to the point that, I could employ other anglers who were experts in the field, who were really good at getting information across, that were an expert barbel angler or an expert trout angler or whoever they may be, and then grow a portfolio of academies that specialised on focusing improvement areas in all the mass areas of angling that there are, then that's ultimate. I'm not an ambitious person or anything, and whether that would ever happen, but if that would be, if we grew or continue to grow organically, and the revenue allowed us to do anything, then it would be an app first, and then it would be growing and branching into other areas of angling.
Yeah, no, great. I think obviously I don't see any reason why this can't be diversified into other areas of angling. It's screaming out for that kind, and obviously you've proved it in carp fishing. Now I know that's a kind of, I don't want to say easy, but kind of obvious, clear kind of route to market because of the audience out there. But the whole industry's screaming for this kind of content where it's not about upselling and it's not about entertainment. There's loads of content out there in terms of entertainment. Obviously, you've got the guys at Guru doing a great job, the Corda guys, the Fox guys, thinking anglers. Everyone's making some great content these days. Really pretty stuff.
Yeah.
But your award is just testament to the fact that people want something different. They want something out there that does tell them the basics without feeling embarrassed. Remembering that your award is a reader voted award, which shows that, again, compared to the competition that's been going 3, 4, 5 years or more, shows that your audience is fully engaged with you. Engagement is key. We can all kind of get numbers. Getting numbers on socials is easy. Engagement is the important part, long-term kind of involvement. And
as a member, sorry for interrupting, I would just love to say hello, Adam. Adam is just one of the best in the business where it comes to explanation, where it comes to diagram, where it comes to rig making, where it comes to everything, where it comes, within carp fishing, he's just on another level.
Hey, Babs, get rid of your crosses. But yeah, I mean, for anyone that's not familiar, by the way, I'm conscious that we've got a lot of kind of non-Carp Academy members out here and some people that maybe don't fish for carp at all. The Carp Academy is essentially a service that provides a load of content, all specified around carp fishing, to do with upskilling content, how to go carp fishing, how to improve your carp fishing, how to attack certain venues. And one of the things that's probably most appealing to me, Adam, is there is a good mixture of kind of in-session stuff where people still want to see you go fishing and they want to see the big black mirrors, as you say, and those lovely venues. But then there's a whole video where you just sat at a picnic table showing someone how to fish with maize, for example.
Yeah.
And people, those skills aren't out there anymore. Most of the films don't tell you how to buy the cheap stuff from the supermarket. It's how to put, a boilie with a Ronnie rig and, a shot on the front of your hook and all kinds of stuff.
A big part of the crossover between technical and session fishing is if you're going to extol the virtues of A, B, C, then you need to
Prove that it works.
yeah, if you're saying, all you need to do is, if you strip away all of this veil of complication and sales and everything else, and you simplify things down and distill it into watercraft and a good bait and sharp hook, then you then need to go out with on a level playing field, which is critical, because we all appreciate that there's a lot of content that isn't made on a level playing field. So we have this sort of moral, I suppose, that, or a code, if you like, that anywhere we go, we have no favors. We have no favors granted or asked. We have no roped off swims. We don't get any special access. We don't get anything. We turn up usually on a venue that we've never been to before, on the gate like everybody else, and then prove hopefully that our tactics will work. And I think that struck a chord with people, because they know there's a lot of fakery in the business of filming and so on. And
yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we all like good filmmaking, and we have to be honest with ourselves and say good filmmaking requires a bit of trickery. And people don't. I mean, some of the other named anglers, they can't go out there and cast out and catch a 50-pounder, and it just happens, in an hour kind of thing. There is a lot of trickery and tomfoolery, as there is with any Hollywood film. But what you are doing is demonstrating to an entirely different audience, an entirely different set of skills. It's not a feature film; it's a documentary as such. They can't be made the same way. And when we talk about the tutorials and the Q&A, I think what it kind of ties us in with Tom, really. So before Tom asks his question, I'm going to let Tom have a little go at this, because where you used to get a lot of this information was the Tackleshop. Yeah. It's like a digital tackle shop that you're providing to a certain extent, because there was no one better to tell you how to go fishing than the tackle shop owner. The guy that knew all the local venues and knew the rigs and knew how to tie every rig in the book and set a pole up and all the rest of it. And we can all still buy all the tackle, we can still buy all the bait on Amazon and eBay and online and all that kind of thing. But what we can't buy is knowledge and experience. So what I'm going to do, thank you very much for that, Adam, but we'll definitely come back to you. But we'll pass over to Tom to have a chat. Feel free to talk about anything, Tom, be it the Angling Trust or Dynamite or anything else, but really interested to hear about the Tackleshop project and why you've won your recognition award, and talk about what tackle shops mean to you and what you think we need to do moving forward, and what the whole point of the tackle shop project is. And then I think that will tie in with Adam quite nicely as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Am I right to share my screen? I've got a little...
Yeah, I'll stop presenting and you should be able to share yours then, Tom.
Present now. Come on. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's just come up.
Yeah.
Smashing.
There we go.
Hopefully that's roughly full screen. But yeah, thank you. I mean, similar to you, Adam, getting the call from James Furness, the editor of the Angling Times, was massively out of the blue, and a huge shock. And I mean, to be honest, there was a large part of me that thought about turning it down. Particularly, I mean, we're in the presence of one Mr. John Pope, and I genuinely believe, and I hope I got this through in the actual magazine article, that I genuinely believe that the fishing world is propped up by people who give so much of their own time, mostly for free, and without those people, it would just probably collapse in a way. And I don't think that's too doom and gloom. I think that's sort of the reality. It'd be interesting to see what people think after the in the kind of Q&A.
It's a lot of our client base, Tom. Bearing in mind we've got hundreds of angling clubs being run by committees of volunteers and volunteer bailiffs and volunteer coaches, and massive amount of the audience on this call all work for free, in their own time outside of their job. So you're exactly right on that one. Yeah.
It is amazing to see. And so 3 years ago, I joined the Angling Trust, and I kind of got to the coalface of it. I got to the the grassroots, if you like, of all this. And I guess bringing it back to the tackle shops, I think it was actually my very first week. I remember going out into, I think it was Norfolk, and I'd never been to Norfolk before. I didn't know anybody there. I had no contacts whatsoever. And so what I thought I'd do is I'd go to the place where every angler must pass through at some point, and that is the tackle shops. And that is what led me to kind of see and also hear directly from the tackle shop owners themselves the kind of state of play that we're in. And I mean, knowing everybody that's on the call, I think it's fair to assume that every single person here has a memory or a core memory, you could probably say, of a tackle shop, whether it's the smell, whether it's the sights, or the person who's typically part of the furniture, somebody normally sat on a high, uncomfortable looking chair opposite the front desk, who kind of acts as like a conduit for the tackle shop owner, almost like a security guard.
Yeah.
And for me, that was certainly the case growing up. I was completely fishing obsessed from the age of about 5. And the tackle shop was always the place to go to find out where to go fishing, to find out the latest methods, but also just to kind of be almost in like a community hall in a way. Obviously one that you spend your money in, but at the same time, it's certainly much more than just a shop. And so the problem is, and working for the Angling Trust, we were sponsored by Angling Direct, and I know a large focus of my passion here is for the independents. It mostly crosses over to the physical tackle shops, but because of the Angling Trust's connection to Angling Direct, it kind of tied our hands a little bit with our ability to work directly with the tackle shops. And so in my own spare time, essentially what I did was create a lobby group / a campaign group, and that is the tackle shop, I guess. And what it involves is essentially me visiting any tackle shop, no matter where it is in the world, or where I am in the world, and just taking pictures, being a part of it, and just peeking beneath the hood, if you like, and just to see what's going on. And you can see here, sadly in the middle, Future Fishing, one of the huge tackle shops. So I've talked about the kind of small independents, but the really, really large warehouse style as well. They unfortunately are no longer trading, but I wanted to include the picture there just as a kind of nod to them and to say we miss them, really, or I certainly do. So what is the Tackle Shop project? Like I've touched before, it's kind of a lobby group, but it's really just an opportunity for me to try and get the conversation looking at tackle shops and their importance. They themselves will quite often tell me that they feel forgotten. We do have organizations like the Angling Trust and like the Angling Trades Association, but they typically will focus on the larger brands and the larger groups or conglomerates, if you like. And you can see here, I mean, I very kindly was allowed to put some pen to paper in the now extinct Improve Your Course Fishing. And I really wanted it to be about showing that importance, that all you really need is a seat box, a whip, and some maggots, coupling that with the knowledge and the guidance from a local tackle shop. And the reason why I chose the Birmingham one here is I got there on a Sunday and I had about 24 hours to do this article. And as Adam will probably agree, doing an article or doing anything for the cameras just adds a huge layer of pressure that really takes the angling into a different realm. But the first day, the Sunday, I didn't catch a single fish. I must have fished about 15 venues, park lakes, canals. Everywhere was just totally devoid of fish. I rang my missus on the Sunday night and said, I really can't come home. I've got to stay until the Monday. And thankfully, I visited Solihull Angling Centre. The two chaps in there laughed at every single peg that I'd fished and every single venue that I'd fished and said, you were just completely wasting your time, which on the one hand made me feel quite vindicated as an angler, but on the other hand really showed me that knowledge, it wasn't online. I needed it. It was just in their head. They ended up pointing me to a stream, a little kind of tiny river nearby, and I ended up catching a full net of fish within 25 minutes or so, and I could get back on the road to see my missus and get back to normal life. The tackle shops I've mentioned, Future Fishing, they're big, they're small. We've all got these memories of them. This one for me, if anybody's anywhere near Cambridge anytime soon, you please must visit this one. It's called FJ and FJ Farrington's, an absolutely phenomenal shop. But I wanted to use him as a background to highlight the key sort of challenges to the tackle shops in the way that I see it and from speaking to them as well. And I don't like naming names necessarily, but in this case, I will. There is a surge of direct-to-consumer brands and products in the fishing world. And while that is fantastic for the angler, we're saving typically 20-30%. What I really want to try and get is a conversation around what we're actually losing for that 10-15-20%. When we're just clicking onto a website and buying things online, we're missing out on all of that human interaction, all of that conversation, and we're kind of chipping away at that community aspect that I know we're all part of, and I know that we all love. And it's that we're losing that kind of magic, I feel. Another really egregious thing for me, I quite often see these things on YouTube where an influencer, so to speak, or a content creator will get a £30 full carp fishing setup from Temu or Wish or something like that. And while it makes interesting content, what is the message that it's sending? The message is buy the cheapest, nastiest rubbish possible that has probably been made in a sweatshop somewhere, or using really, really cheap, awfully produced goods and kind of gear. And really, what are we losing with that? Again, it's the message that it sends is really, really negative one, I think, on fishing. Now, obviously, it goes without saying that the tackle shops are going to be dramatically affected by the cost of living crisis that we're all living through. And I mean, we are all, nobody is exempt from this. And obviously the price of fishing as well. The syndicate prices these days are sometimes going through the roof. And that's where I think I know there's a lot of fishery managers and a lot of clubs and things with Clubmate. And I think it's really fantastic that the club keeps going. Clubs always offer an unbelievable value for money. I mean, your club in particular, Rob, P&DAA, Peterborough and Districts. I mean, what's a day ticket? What's a annual ticket these days for
30
Peterborough?
quid.
30 quid.
Yeah, 30 quid.
Absolutely incredible to hear. And
yeah.
I mean, you get some phenomenal fishing for that.
Bear in mind, that's for a year's fishing that includes Ferry Meadows, the best bream venue in the country, for barbel touching the British record. I think 3 rivers, 3 counties, 30 miles of river, 2 massive lakes, free junior coaching, all the rest of it. Again, touching earlier, Tom, that's all based on volunteer work. That's based on the back of hours and hundreds of hours of volunteer work. We had a Christmas match yesterday, actually, Town Wellington Spalding. Someone at the winner caught £46 a roach.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah,
like that.
A lot of the others didn't. But top 3 all had around £40 a roach, which you don't do in many places these days. Catching £40 a roach on old-fashioned tactics, and fantastic day at the races. But yeah, 30 quid. You pay 30 quid for any one of those venues I've named. We could charge 30 quid or more for any one individual venue, but so many clubs out there like that, without kind of harping on about my own. There's so many clubs where you can get dozens of miles of river, a selection of lakes, park lakes, gravel pits, all this kind of thing on a club ticket. And we've seen a swing in it. We've seen a swing from the kind of syndicate ticket where lads always used to have 2-3 tickets for the year and might not visit 2 of them. That wasn't their target water for the year, but they kept the ticket anyway. And with the cost of living crisis and your Lurpak butter costing £9 a pack kind of thing, people have just said, well, I can't do this anymore. They've dropped 2 out of the 3, or dropped all 3 and bought a kind of club ticket again, which is great for club fishing, because that's another area of angling that's struggled really badly in the last few years, is kind of club fishing in the last 10-20 years. There's such a symbiotic relationship here between everything we're talking about, whether it's Adam's Carp Academy or the tackle shops or the clubs. This is a great big kind of connected ecosystem we're talking about, because perhaps kind of the rise in angling media, the carp media that Adam was talking about, kind of pushed people more, because that was the first thing people saw. When we were growing up, in my early years, and yours, Tom, and yours, Adam, you experienced fishing via your granddad. Your granddad took you down the local river or whatever else to catch a perch and a roach. Whereas a lot of kids these days, their first experience of carp fishing is carpology. Seeing a £40 carp, and that way the niche goes. That's where they start their fishing, and we're missing out. And the clubs obviously missed out. There was this great big movement towards kind of either carp fisheries or commercial carp fishing when it comes to kind of the match side of things. And now there's this kind of reversal of that, not only for for money, but also because there's this kind of retro romantic feel of going back to the old venues and kind of going back to natural water fishing. So great value out there. So I'll let you carry on, Tom.
No. It's really, really fantastic that you picked up on the Town Welland, that you told us about the Town Welland thing, because talk about accessible. How many people live within walking distance of the Town Welland? I believe there's a fishing tackle shop. Is there still one in centre of Spalding?
Yeah, Grand's Angling's been going for years and years and years. Grand's Angling, straight through the middle. The river runs bang through the middle of Spalding. Everyone lives on it. I started there as a kid. I went to school there. I lived there. Fished it all my life. And yeah, you talk about accessible fishing, and with the kind of move away from club fishing and kind of natural water fishing, it was empty. And we've kind of got back to, we ran some junior sessions on there this year. We literally got a team of junior coaches to just wander up and down the river for a couple of days and put an advert out there and said, if anyone's out there, kids, whatever, pop along. The coaches will give you a how-to, hand a rod to you. They carried like 4 or 5 rods with them, just handed a rod to a kid and started, getting them fishing. So it's great to see people back on these kind of town venues, inner city venues, really accessible ones. You think there's no excuse here for this not to be fished.
Yeah.
And we're in danger of being overtaken by, people on, their water sports, the canoes and the open water swimmers and whatever else. And there's all this talk about using, and it's come up in Spalding recently about using the water system, using the river. And you're like, hang on, there's someone here that's been using it for a very, very long time, that have invested in it, that put money into it, that are kind of really helping the entire ecosystem and not just going out for a paddle every day. Nothing against people's passions, but I think anglers and angling have invested thousands of pounds into kind of fisheries, thousands of pounds into into kind of ecosystems and improving fish stocks and habitats not only for fish but for birds and insects and plant life and all the rest of it.
For sure.
Yeah, go on, Tom, carry on.
No, that was great. So the absolute thing I've always been very careful of with the Tackleshop project is the last thing I want to do, and the absolute last thing I want to do is to tell other anglers how they should spend their money. I've always been as careful as I possibly can to kind of avoid saying you must not use online, you must not do this, you must not do this. And I've always wanted to show rather what we will miss, what they are missing by not supporting their tackle shop, by not going into a tackle shop and doing this sort of thing. And another way I've done that is by highlighting what people can do and what everybody on this call can do, which is basically absolutely totally free. So I know there's a lot of club and fishery managers on this call, and hopefully listening afterwards as well to the recording, and having a diverse portfolio of fishing, if you like, that you can have. So, in the last few years, the rise of carp anglers going grayling fishing has almost become a meme in itself. But long may it continue. Carp obviously famously don't really feed as well in the winter, and that can actually make people hang up their rods and kind of see you later, we'll see you in the spring. And I think that is a real shame. And one of the reasons potentially, I'd love to hear Adam's thoughts and anybody else's. I know when I was younger, we would watch things like the Matt Hayes Total Fishing Show and John Wilson. And in each of those programs that'd be half an hour long or something like that, we'd actually see John or Matt or whoever fishing potentially for marlin, and then he'd go fishing for tench on a little estate lake in Norfolk, and then they'd go fishing for pike on a big water as well. We don't get any of that now. We're all so compartmentalized into our particular niches, whether it be carp, whether it be match, whether it be specimen. And I'd love to see more people kind of encouraging their friends. If you go out perch fishing, speak to the carp anglers that you know and get them along. Give them a little pack of prawns and see if they like it. But that from a fishery manager's point of view, it's encouraging kind of lots of different things is really, really important. And I've spoken to many tackle shops who say that without, for instance, in London, this is very common, in the tackle shops in London will all say, without Eastern European anglers going drop shotting through the winter in particular, or fishing on the Thames in the tidal stretches to take, sea fish for the table, they just simply would have shut 10 years ago. And so I think it's really important that we try and push people out of the comfort zones and also give them an opportunity to get out of the comfort zones as easily as possible. One of the things I touched on previously as well is the community aspect, and I don't think that starts and stops just at the tackle shop. When you're running a club or when you're doing anything, running events or anything like that, trying to involve the tackle shops as much as possible, I think can have a massive exponential return. And kind of piecing together the pieces of the puzzle will always make things better and bigger and more secure. I mean, Ringwood Tackle here is a really fantastic example of that. I mean, they've got 2 fantastic clubs on their doorstep, and the guys in the shop are very heavily involved in kind of with both. And they kind of provide the springboard for lots and lots of people to catch some mega fish from that area. But mostly, and I think lastly as well, the most important thing that we can all do, the chap on the left of this picture, Mr. John Pope, is on this call. Sorry, John. We've just got to get stuck in. I think it's down to every single one of us to do as even the smallest part, whether that's as something as simple as liking and sharing a post that a tackle shop or somebody in the grassroots area sort of makes, all the way up to actually going out and getting stuck in yourself, running events, taking part in events, and just kind of putting your head above the parapet, because it's not just the fishing world that benefits. I know lots and lots of people that tell me, and they say that without the kind of coaching, without the volunteering that they do, they would just be sat at home, or they might be sat on the bank, but not quite as enjoying it as so much. This one here is a really fantastic event. I mean, it just shows the appeal to fishing. I mean, just this one lad caught this lovely fish. There must have been about 30 or 40 people around, and this is actually a very rare one. This is a partnership between a nature reserve and a fishing club, and there's lots and lots of people that get involved. It's one day a year, and the knock-on benefits are absolutely massive to events like these. So even if you haven't got much time, and even if people haven't got a lot of energy to expend on it, just doing that one day or doing that 1 or 2 things a year can really have a huge exponential impact like this one does. And I just want to finish by my kind of cheesy line about fishing. I really do think that fishing is a bit like a religion in many ways, in the way it kind of brings us together. It's a common cause and all that sort of thing. And if fishing is the religion, I think of tackle shops as almost being like the churches. And if anybody takes anything from me harping on and all these pictures, it's just that any small thing that we can all do together really can make an impact. And I mean, I just want to be able to take my little man and my other little man who's not in this picture into a tackle shop one day, for them to buy their first tackle and first rod and what have you, and to experience the same feelings and the thoughts that I have. But thank you for listening. Hope I haven't put anybody to sleep.
No, thanks very much, Tom. Really interesting. I mean, it's always really obvious that Tom's kind of passion comes across. I've known Tom for many, many years.
Brilliant.
Tom is one of the most passionate people I've known, that's put in hundreds of hours outside of his paid work into some of these projects. I've just shared this. I know you can't see it very well, but if you can head to Instagram and just search the Tackle Shop Project and give it a follow, Tom does just go to all these different tackle shops, highlighting what they've got to offer, highlighting the people that run these shops and what they offer to the community. And as Tom mentioned, they're valuable to the community in so many different ways. They've helped so many people get fishing. And even back to those conversations, Adam, that you've had with people that didn't want to reach out to anyone. I'm sure there's many tackle shop owners that have been there for people, and just that conversation might not have been said vocally, but that conversation probably made someone's day. I mean, I'm taking from this, if it's a religion, Tom, that I have to go fishing every Sunday, to be honest. Yeah, I'm definitely going. Thank you very much.
Craig's got his hand up.
Yeah, go on, Craig.
I'd just like to say, obviously, with what we were saying about the junior stuff, and obviously I do my coaching, the wellbeing coaching, as you know, Rob, through Fishing for Minds.
Yeah.
I think as coaches, we have to really diversify on what fishing we do. I'd never done any lure fishing before myself, and we actually put some lure fishing classes on during the October half term, and every child that joined our group got involved in the lure fishing, and they enjoyed it more than anything else. So obviously what we're looking at trying to do is going forward is he's starting doing some carpy specimen sessions and stuff like that as well. So
Adam's making notes because everyone here has said we need to diversify, so he's just started.
I've just
the Bass Academy.
I was so put to shame with Tom's incredible presentation. I thought, shit, why didn't I do something? I should have done more of an effort than some rambling with my microphone turned off. But that was so brilliant. And Tom is just, I'm on here giving the Tackleshop project a follow now and sharing one of the things to my story. Didn't know about it, you know, but that's the great thing about something like this, isn't it? It's making us all aware of all the different brilliant things that people like Tom are doing. And I've got a lot of passion for what Tom's talking about, and a few thoughts maybe to put into it, but more power to you, Tom. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And I do push back against the angling directs of the world, because I think that the sort of shops that you've highlighted and shown there are, you know, the blood and the lifeblood of the sport. And if they went, it would be a devastating blow. Can you just imagine that everyone was just getting their gear from Temu or Amazon, and there was none of these shops, and we're losing so many of them, either where they're getting eaten up or whether they're just, you know, going bust. Or
2024 was
shame.
terrible. You know, 2024.
It's like the high street
like
butcher,
flies.
isn't it? Or the you know.
It really is. It really is.
Getting eaten up by
Yeah.
conglomerates. But sorry, I just I'm
No.
not. I am listening. I'm just writing as well.
And just to cover both things, I actually served my apprenticeship working in a tackle shop. I ran a tackle shop for several years, and it was a very small independent. Tom, you've been there and took some pictures. And it's got that lovely maggot smell to it, and that's the abiding memory for me, is the stench of maggots and sawdust everywhere, covered in maize. But Craig is also completely correct on the other side of that conversation about coaching. We really do need to diversify the coaching, because we've really got into this, and it's not bad. You know, I never want to sound like this is a criticism, because I've played this line a few times. It's not bad to get anyone into fishing any way that we can, but we have kind of fallen into this plug and play whip thing, you know, where we give kids a whip and a maggot on a kind of match type venue on match type tactics, and that's it. And although that's great, it's not really giving people access to the rest of the sport. And even worse than that, there are some people who will never approach that type of fishing. And lure fishing, as you mentioned, Craig, is something I've started working on. We actually ran some specific lure coaching sessions with my coaches this year, because I'm lucky enough to have an Eastern European lead coach who's very talented lure angler, and a few other lure anglers. And it's just the most accessible, easy, mobile and quickest way to get people fishing, and probably a little bit more exciting sometimes, because, you know, once you've caught 50 rudd on a whip, you know, you've caught 50 rudd on a whip, it doesn't really get much more interesting. So yeah, I think it's definitely something, whether it is lure fishing or carp fishing, it's so hard to get people, and Adam, you'll probably have a few thoughts on this. It's hard to get first timers carp fishing, for example, or barbel fishing, or whatever else, because it's a bit more specialist. There's a bit more to think about in terms of maybe health and safety. It's harder to do in numbers. Obviously, when it comes to the whip fishing, you can put 30 people in a row and get them all a whip. When it comes to your specimen type fishing, it's a little bit harder to kind of coach and get people in. And I feel like we drop them, you know, between this and that, you know, between the whip type fishing, it's hard to then move them into various niches. I don't know if you agree, any of you.
Well, I'd just like to add, Craig, that the really, really lovely thing, it's great to hear, because, I mean, there's very, very few, I mean, there's hundreds of organizations around the country that will do coaching at certain points of the year, but there's very, very few of those that will do any lure fishing. And one of the reasons why I love it, well, there's two principal reasons, is because particularly with youths who, let's say, can't sit still for very long, the attraction of covering 4, 5, 6 miles with a lure rod along a canal or whatever, it ticks so many boxes for kids that might not necessarily respond too well to necessarily sitting on a seat box. But the fantastic thing that I love about it is it's great all times of year. I mean, the traditional lure fishing season you'd probably say was about October to March, and those are traditionally periods of the year where there's absolutely no coaching going on at all, pretty much across the country. So if we're encouraging people to go out coaching and therefore learning to fish in those times of year, the likelihood is that they will hopefully continue fishing throughout the same time of year, and therefore, I mean, selfishly to bring it back to the tackle shops, but getting them into the tackle shops all year round rather than just when it's nice and warm or in the spring.
I mean, there's nothing selfish about it, Tom. So don't worry. It's not like you're making anything up of this. But keep mentioning it. Babs, I know you've got a question. Would you like to ask?
Yeah, so just on the diversifying of methods and things like that. So I fly fish for coarse fish. Amongst that is your perch, pike, and yes, Wells catfish are included in that too. But what we find is a problem is approaching fisheries or anywhere that's got syndicates and things, and just running into this massive wall of your equipment's not good enough to fish our waters, and it's just that closed-mindedness. And some people are willing to listen to what we've got to say about our gear and things, but quite a lot of them don't. No, it's a little fly rod, bugger off. No, it's not. And so that's one of the things. So I like the fact that we're trying to work with more places to open up more fishing, and particularly fly fishing for coarse fish, but we're still running into the big wall with a lot of them that we approach going, not interested, go away.
I mean, that's a really specific use case, obviously, but I think that
It
just screams to the diversification requirement. If more people were aware of different types of coaching and different types of fishing, we had more qualified coaches and more options for them, I think that would solve itself, to be honest.
And I'll be honest, there's actually quite a few of us that, I coach pike fly fishing in my neck of the woods. In this last 12 months, there are 2 or 3 more angling trust coaches that also are now qualified in pike for pike. But in saying that, there are a lot of guides out there. Now guiding and coaching to me are a little bit different, but there are more out there. But we are, as fly fishing, we're like 1% of the entire market. We're always going to be small.
I mean, flying, I know you fly fish for coarse fish, but fly fishing and game fishing in general is the area which is struggling the most, which is, again, Adam, something I think you'd obviously like to help tackle if you could ever expand is, to prop up any of the struggling parts of the angling trade, whether it be fly or game or whatever else it is.
A massive increase from, the trout guys getting bored with trout, the cost of trout and salmon, and they're coming over to coarse.
It is being priced out a little bit.
And pushing it as well.
The game beats. The traditional impression of game fishing is that it's expensive and elitist and posh. And some of the really, we've seen at Clubmate some of the kind of more value-oriented kind of fly fisheries doing really well in the last couple of years, and the really expensive ones, the traditional several £1,000 a rod a year kind of fisheries have struggled a little bit more, and people just don't have the disposable income left anymore. But all lends itself to diversification, which I think has become kind of the theme of the evening. Craig, you've got your hand up again. What's the next one?
I was just going to say, I don't know if this is correct or not, but I think there's been a 25% increase in junior rod sales.
It's definitely up this year. I can't remember what the exact numbers were. I did see the numbers last month.
It's around about that. It's around about that. Yeah.
But what I'm finding really bad is that the rod licenses work from, is it 12 to 16, if I'm right?
It's 13 you need, one, isn't it? So it's 13 to 16.
We've got that number underneath of people that are coming, but we don't actually know the true stats.
The conversion rate is the difficult part. The challenge is
probably be more 40%, couldn't we? Increase.
Yeah, but the difficult part is that's obviously free. The part that makes that difficult is anyone, all for a free dinner. We can get loads of people trying things for the first time, and we can make them sign up for a rod license when they do it, and we can say they've signed up for the year. The real testing part about the future of angling is when they reach 16, 17 and they have to convert into adult members or adult license holders. That's where the real challenge is actually maintaining that from junior to senior. And that's what's going to drive the future of the sport. And I think that's where we are lacking at the moment as a sport, is we don't really have any ideas about how we get them from the one to the other.
We've been quite lucky from the feedback we've had from our coaching. We've actually had quite a few people go to some of the more established clubs, and they've actually turned around and said to us, we actually enjoy how you integrate with the children. So they've coming back. So more of a question for Adam now, really. We're obviously looking at doing like the specimen carp style fishing, because on the water we coach, we've got big tench, bray and carp. Have you got any ideas of something that would go down really well without, like, keeping the juniors kind of engaged?
Well, I mean, the things that I've done in the past I've done a lot of events with juniors actually. I mean, usually it's a 48-hour event because there's a lot to get immersed into, isn't there? There's bearing in mind that a lot of them won't have ever used tackle that's of that unwieldiness, if you like. I think the best events that I've been to are where you've got maybe, obviously you can't dial up the numbers too high, but where you've got maybe 30 adults and 30 kids, and you have a social event going on at the same time where everyone gets to fish with an adult who's capable of passing on some skills. And certainly the kids that I've seen go through that, I mean, it's similar to the old Carp Society schools that they used to do at Horseshoe Lake in the 90s. They do work well, and you do get quite a lot of take up from those. I still come across people quite regularly that would say they were at a carp school that we were running, in 1998 or whenever it was. So yeah, they work well. But again, you're not reaching huge amounts of people at any one time. That is the downside. But I really think, from listening to certainly from Tom's presentation, the thing that really stood out to me were two things. Obviously, you've got the first problem is that people always will want to pay less for whatever it is they're doing. It's human nature, and that is a massive barrier to overcome. But I think that the diversification is an absolutely potent part of any effective strategy that we might employ, because and I think Tom used the example, when people stop carp fishing, and you haven't, what we need is people that are in the market for 12 months of the year and not 6 months of the year, obviously. But there are so many other immensely joyous elements to our sport. I sitting here, and instead of glazing over when Tom's talking about 46 pound of roach, I'm thinking I need his number because I want to know where this is. So and I think that if you can unveil or ignite, maybe for want of a better word, that passion for fishing in the individual rather than just a passion for carp fishing or whatever it is, so that they always look at a body of water thinking, I wonder what's down there, whether it's an 8-ounce dace or whether it's it doesn't matter how big it is. It's that mystery element, that excitement element. And I think part of the reason that we've seen some elements where figures have plateaued off is where people just get obsessed with size. If they're not big carp or not big this or not big that, then they just drift away to the next fix. But the fix with angling for me isn't about the size of the fish. It's about the mystery, about that float going under, or about, it doesn't matter what sort of fishing I could be doing tomorrow. And although I'm lucky enough to make my living out of carp fishing, and I've been at the sharp end of it for a long time, if it was my last ever day's fishing tomorrow, probably I would say put me on a stream with 46 pound of roach and a centre pin and a top and bottom float, something. But I think somehow accessing and nurturing the love of angling through the diversity is the way that we grow the trade. I think that's a key part. I haven't got any magic ideas of how to do that right now, but it certainly struck me as from Tom's presentation as an area that I think would be a most potent spearhead, if you like. I'm rambling, sorry, but yeah, the diversification I think is key.
Yeah, what we look at with what we do with the junior stuff is we look at it more of as offering an angling apprenticeship. So we can offer them the basics in kind of every kind of area, and then they can decide what their angling journey is.
Right.
For example, we took a child out. He was 9. He'd done a session with us in the summer. He'd done one in October with us, and he'd done some lure fishing. He'd just been diagnosed with ADHD, and his parents couldn't believe how he really took it on. He'd never cast a rod. After a 2-hour session, not only was he casting lures, he was chucking a waggler out.
Yeah.
Absolutely lovely. And you think, do you know what? You know, like, obviously looking more with a well-being side, you can see how that's helped him, and he's found something to kind of obsess over.
It's interesting that I mean, when you touched on that, I was listening to a podcast where Musk was talking about the effect that gaming has on him. Elon Musk are talking about the fact that because he thinks he's touched with one of the various mental afflictions, and he said that the ability to just zone out and think about nothing other than focusing on that one thing is massively effective. And certainly another person who mentioned it to me, but the guy who does our photography, our filming, Chris Madden, who's a phenomenal guy, phenomenal cameraman. No, actually, that's not true. He is, by his own admission, he's quite a green cameraman. He's getting into it, and we're going to grow together. But he is a phenomenal guy, and he does a lot of work with kids. In fact, I only found out the other day he's been down to Buckingham Palace to collect an award for the work that he does with kids, doing exactly what you're talking about. And he takes them out grayling fishing on various rivers in Yorkshire. And he's been telling me stories about complete transformations of kids' character almost to the positive because of the impact of angling. There's a huge message and story there, isn't there?
There's a massive story. We've actually looked as well that a lot of parents have said, oh, we think the kids are on the spectrum. And when we obviously send a referral form over before we do everything, and you would be surprised how many parents put on their referral form on strengths and weaknesses, they're good at Xbox. And I think that because of the kind of life we live at the minute, it's all social media driven. So children are on Xboxes all the time. They're not going out playing, making dens, or going to hunt for that elusive carp in this overgrown lake down somewhere. All their play is pre-imaginative. So I think obviously they're not using the cognitive part of the brain. So by fishing, it's kind of giving them that life skill, would like to say.
And also getting them outside.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that is a key element. It's that rooting yourself in nature, you know, without getting all holistic and spiritual. We aren't a creature that is designed to be blue screened and surrounded by tech and Wi-Fi. You know, we all feel better when we have this connection, either literally to the earth by being barefoot on grass, or just being outside and surrounded by bird song and the running water or whatever it is. You know, there's no question that is a more beneficial environment for our human psyche. With, you know, I think we're all anglers, aren't we? I'm sure everyone would agree with that. That's one of the reasons we all do it.
I mean, let's just take a look at it just on this call by accident. We've talked about the mental health benefits of angling. We've talked about the benefit to kids, the benefit to kids with mental health problems. You know, just by accident, with it not being the focus of tonight's call at all, we've spoken about the amazing benefits of angling to the community. So it's, you know, I think we're all passionate on this call. We're all here because we're passionate. And I think there's a lot more work for us all to do. Again, whether it is volunteer, whether it's paid, whether it's your career or not, we've all got our bit to add to the future of the sport. I think
also, Rob, that it's also not just about, obviously there is that mental health element and the support that we can give to kids, but certainly I'm sure, I mean, Steve would tell you, Stephen Mayo is on the call tonight. He would, and he didn't come on here for this, so you don't have to mention anything or get into it. But Stephen will tell you that angling has played a big part in saving his life. And that is a story that you do hear from people, that without fishing, you know, the world might have been lost to them, or they might have been lost to the world. It's so significant. You hear about PTSD, you know, I've done a lot of work in the past with servicemen. There is something immensely valuable that fishing can bring you, that calmness and that focus and that serenity. It's there aren't many other things, don't think that can really bring you all of those benefits. But
I don't think I mean, moments like you described earlier, Adam, as sad as it is, to be honest, I don't think anything brings it home more, and it really does hit you in the heart. And I've been there as well, you know, when people have called you up and, you know, in those moments of absolute desperation. And I don't think nothing strikes home more than that, you know, when it's the difference between life and death for some people. And it's, as sad as that is, it's so prevalent in society today. And thankfully, it's, you know, not so bad to talk about now for especially men. There's always been this stigma about males talking about how they feel and, you know, suffering in silence. Thank God it gets talked about more, and it's not something new. I think a lot of people think, oh, you know, it's just modern society, you know, mental health is just, you know, a lot of this is made up. It's because it's, you know, it's less stigma attached to it. More people are talking about it. I think it's fantastic. And if anyone on this call can do anything to help and just be there for someone, then always do. And let's keep trying to do what we can. John, did you have your hand up a minute ago? Sorry, John.
I did, because I was just really just going to say about, it's not just children, is it? It's the adults. Currently within our coaching, we're doing family, and it's almost a family support group, where the mum has suffered from violence and stuff from the partner, and bringing the kids back together. So I've been doing that with a new group this year, and I've actually done quite a bit with a lot of adults on the various scales of mental health. And well, I mean, some people would just call them weird, but it's just, you know, as one lady came with a crow on her shoulder, where she's actually got a tame crow.
You say a crow?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And she's had it since it was a baby. The only downside of that was all the poo down the back of her, but it didn't leave her side. You know,
I was going to say, as long as it wasn't a cormorant, that's all right then.
Yeah, well, we
might scare them off.
as well.
Yeah.
And then going back to other things, is like I work at Milton Country Park, fishing and stuff. And this year we've, because it was all about carp, and I've now introduced like silver fishing, which has encouraged a lot more of the older generation again to come back, because that's all that they were interested in, the roach, the rudd, you know, and the tench and all that stuff.
Don't forget the crucians, John.
Well, yes, the crucians are going very well. I mean, it's
what you've done down there is spectacular.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. We just took some more out to give them back to the EA. They're putting them in some lake or something.
I think I'm having some of them.
Rather than breed them at the farm, they'll be in this lake, and hopefully they'll breed in there, and then they can take them from there. But we've given quite a few. Must be 1,000 fish over a couple of years. They gave us quite a few, but we've given them quite a few back. But that's, so it's a lovely little venue we've got there now for coaching.
Like you said, it's important to not get niche just into the kids. You know, we've done it with a lot of adults where all of a sudden you realise that the mum's getting the benefits from the outdoors.
Right,
or the dad that might have done it when he was 5 years old with his granddad and hasn't touched a rod since. And it's really, again, talking about diversification, it's not only going from whip fishing to lure fishing to carp fishing, it's going from kids to adults to disabled people to, you know, people with mental health issues. It's really important that we focus. It's just, there's too much work for this, like Tom mentioned earlier, this creaking back of volunteers that is kind of propping angling up. It's too much work for these people. So we need to work out how we can benefit that. You know, how we can use, you know, the people in angling, the people with influence in angling can really help out with that and help these volunteers keep going, because we can all only do so much for free. You know, we can all only do so many hours for free.
Well, it's very much even the social prescribing, isn't it? You know, it's, they keep ringing up and wanting you to take people, but they're all kind of wanting it for free, which, you know, I do most things for free, but, you know, there's petrol.
That's the same problem I'm having with ours as well. And I think as a collective, and I know I've spoken to you about this in the past, Rob, we all need to be working together. And actually, it's proven that fishing is an alternate therapy for mental well-being. But the government need to recognise it and make sure that we're getting the funding to be able to do this kind of stuff
I think it is coming. It is coming forward now, because there's the big problem, and I knew it from a lot of other little things. At the park, they did a mental health referral for children up to 16, but it wasn't until you actually got a psychologist or those kind of people to write a report on it, which actually, shows the benefits of it. And I know there's lots of fishing programs more up north, which are now being written up by psychologists and things, which is really opening stuff up. I believe there's quite a big project we're talking about Norfolk. I think there's a big hospital thing there. So I think it's coming, but it's just taken a long time. But it's got to be, it's got to be supported by psychologists and mental health people writing up the benefits. But as Tom said, it's just being outdoors, isn't it?
Yeah, what I find frustrating is that they will give money for reading groups. They'll give them so much funding for reading groups, which you can go and get books from the library. Doing reading groups and buying books doesn't cost money relative to what we offer and what it actually costs us to run sessions, kind of thing.
As John says, it's got to be evidence-based. There's an awful lot of angling, and this isn't just to do with participation. An awful lot of angling is just incidental sideline kind of commenting from the sideline, saying, it's beneficial for mental health, and this is a problem, and that's a problem, and there's never been anywhere near enough evidence in angling. And again, this is because a lot of it's run on the back of volunteers. If volunteers don't know how to gather evidence, and they don't know who to speak to about that evidence, and they don't have connections with the right specialists, whether these are ecologists or psychologists or whatever it might well be, is signposting the right resources for these the clubs and the angling clubs and the fisheries that have no idea who to call. We need to get evidence-based we need evidence-based studies, and once you've got an evidence-based study that said angling helped this many kids last year and this many adults last year, then you might get some funding. And just from a PR point of view, people will give you money. If you can prove that it benefits people will give you money.
We're going to start writing some case studies, because obviously I've got my children's mental health and counselling qualifications at level 3. So we're looking at basically writing some case studies into it. But just also one of the guys I took out it was about 11 months ago, Wesley. He suffers really bad with social anxiety, and he's actually found that by going fishing, it's actually improved his moods, and he's made friends, and he's got to a point where he's actually gone and done one of the event support courses as well. So,
but doesn't it do it to, I'm not being funny. I think we all have mental health. There's this kind of, we all forget that we all have mental health. We're all in a state of mental health. And while it's really obvious with the acute sufferers, we're all benefiting in this way from angling. We're all benefiting on your toughest day. It might not be as tough as some other people's, but on your toughest day, angling made it better, and the outdoors made it better. I'm conscious the time's rocking on a bit here, so we'll move on a little bit. I want to open it up if there's any more questions from the audience. It's been a fantastic talk, I think. It's been really interesting. But has anyone else got any questions they'd like to raise, or any questions about either the Tackleshop project or Penning's Carp Academy? Raise your hand now and please go ahead. Before we close out, I'd just like to say, obviously, Clubmate are hosting this seminar tonight. There's this kind of there is this impression that digital platforms like Clubmate are very anti-Tackleshop. And, as I've said, I've been friends with Tom for a great many years. Tom's fully aware that that's not the case. Just because we're moving to kind of digital platforms to buy membership where you might have bought it in the Tackleshop doesn't mean that you have to be unsupportive of your Tackleshop. We're working with a lot of our clients now to install the Tackleshop owners as kind of a staff member on their accounts, and so that they can still have the conversations and talk people through buying their memberships and tickets. And one of my aims personally, again, coming from having run a Tackleshop myself in 2025, is to get Clubmate into the Tackleshops and get your kind of anglers, especially those kind of more elderly ones that kind of struggle with the digital technology. If they can go in and speak to the Tackleshop owner who can tell them how to buy a ticket online and pay for their membership, then I think we all win. So it's something we're going to be focusing on, and we're going to be running our own Clubmate Tackleshop project, hopefully with some input from Tom in 2025. And also, just to cover, going back to kind of Adam and the Carp Academy, the reason Adam's with us tonight is that it's something that, you know, I'm a really big fan of, is this, you know, the ethos of the Carp Academy is going right back to basics, getting more people fishing and not being afraid to ask questions. You know, if you go onto kind of Adam's page and look at some of the questions, they really are the kind of, some people would say, sorry, this is a stupid question, but as someone once said, you know, there's no such thing as a stupid question. And it's something, again, we really buy into. You know, we're here to really kind of drive the sport forward. And, you know, what Adam's done, and the award, again, being a testament to this, is really drive kind of carp angling, participation in carp angling forward, has been incredibly successful and been recognised by not only the Angling Times, but more importantly, his members and hopefully the members of the future. And we're quite keen, and we're going to be working really closely with Adam as we move forward. And for all the Clubmate clients on the call, we're soon to roll out an exclusive discount for you to join the Carp Academy and get access to some of those resources. So keep an eye on your inboxes. So if there aren't any more questions tonight, all there is left to say really is thank you to all the guests for coming. So I appreciate it very much. Adam, thank you very much for coming along. Tom, fantastic as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well done.
Thanks for having me. Thanks. Happy New Year to all you lovely people fighting a good fight. Big respect to all of you.
No, we'll look forward to seeing everyone again soon. We'll have some more seminars rolling out shortly. So we'll catch up with you soon. Happy New Year from us and good night.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Beer.
Yeah, there you go.
Just about to crack another one.
Yeah.